Hello, everyone, and welcome to iCritic Live. This is usually the podcast where we talk about entertainment, pop culture, and life in between. However, this is going to be the start of a sub-podcast within the podcast, if you will, called Life After Cancellation. Now, for those of you who are not aware of what the term cancellation means, although you probably, I don't know how you could not at this point. It used to mean when like a TV show or a series ended, like that show got canceled, usually due to poor ratings or something. But it's come to mean something more in the sense that now we cancel people. And that is when someone either does something, they say something, or they are part of something that people do not agree with. And people collectively decide that they are no longer going to watch that person's work or pay attention to them or whatever. In effect, sometimes people wind up being canceled. Now, the aim for this podcast series is to talk to people that have been canceled and not to necessarily get gotcha answers or to agree or necessarily disagree with why they got canceled. But there is a story behind everything. And I've always found the whole concept of being canceled interesting. What does it feel like to be canceled? What goes through someone's mind? How does life change after being canceled? And so that is what this series is going to be about. And the first person that I have decided to talk to, and thankfully he agreed to, is the artist formerly known as Mundane Matt. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Thank you. You are a hard guy to get a hold of. I'll tell you that.
Well, schedules are difficult when you have two kids and a full-time job and everything. So.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't relate obviously, but I can sympathize.
Sure.
Busy thing.
Yeah.
So,
I sorry about last night. I totally forgot I had those movie tickets.
Yeah. Oh no, that's fine. I mean, I'm seeing like 3 or 4 movies a week. It's like sometimes I forget like what movie I'm even seeing. So, all right. So I've actually been a viewer of yours for a long time, back in the Mundane Matt days, back in the Gamergate days, back during the Trump-Clinton race. I'm going to take a page from something that you said, like, I think 8 years ago. It kind of feels like that election never ended.
Yeah, it might have ended tonight, finally. Maybe. Tonight was bad, but we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah. Like you have your own late night podcast.
Yes, I will be providing my spicy takes.
Yes. But so here's the thing. I'm going to start us kind of like share the situation as I perceived it. I used to watch you all the time, and the fall, if you will, happened. I remember being on Twitter, and you were saying like, I'm being accused of something that I didn't do, which was false flagging videos, and a YouTube live. Oh, I'm getting an echo.
I don't hear anything.
What the heck? Oh, I'm stupid. Sorry. I had our live stream.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, it's okay. So sorry. So live, folks. That's why we love it. So I remember seeing that Twitter post, and then you were invited onto a live stream / podcast called, I think, the Rudder Report, if I recall.
No, it was the kill stream.
The kill stream. Okay. Oh, all right. So, but you went on and to defend yourself, and they asked you to show your flagging history, which you did hesitantly, and then it showed that you had been flagging YouTube videos. Now, again, folks, this is why I want to reiterate, I am not talking to Matt because I agree with what he did or disagree. I'm just stating what happened. Typically, flagging videos is not considered a kosher thing to do amongst other YouTubers. And the fallout just kind of seemed to begin. That's when I started seeing Mundane Matt killed his career, all these types of videos. And for the next few months, things, you did seem to lose a lot of viewers and stuff. So I guess my first question, first of all, explain the situation on how it unfolded from your point of view.
Okay, so it goes back a ways, to be fair. At the end of 2017, Andy Worski decided for the sake of money, decided to blow up whatever friendly alliance a lot of us had in the wake of the apocalypse. A line in the sand was drawn, if you will. I got drug into it because there's a guy named Tonkasaw who I woke up one morning kind of like early mid-December. I think like my daughter had just been born, my oldest daughter. And I woke up and Tonka's like losing his mind, right? He's just going crazy. I don't know what it is. So I tell him like, all right, man, just calm down. Like, just calm down. It's fine. Like, just calm down. It's okay. You know, like that's like, you tell anyone to like, calm down. Like, what the hell? You know, well, that triggered him. It just triggered him. And he just came after me for months and months and months and months came after me. And like, it was annoying because I thought we were friends, right? So that part sucked. But then through that, it just was a lot. You know, I was always like, you know, I was just getting hit constantly. And because I just had my kid, I was doing like the overnight duty as well as the stay-at-home dad duty. So I wasn't getting a lot of sleep on top of, you know, like everything else. So it was just a lot of mounting pressure. And I allowed myself to get angry at a couple people and report them for harassment. I didn't know about the report history. That's something I'm now intimately familiar with. But I didn't know about it. And none of the videos I ever flagged went down. There was like 5 people across maybe 13 videos, I think. And not one of them went down. No one lost any money. No one lost anything. Okay. Which is good, but that's what happened. But in this particular moment, there was the kill stream that night had been apparently shut down for showcasing this very, very, very terrible, old, cringy attempt at comedy I did with a stuffed polar bear puppet, making it say certain words. And so I was at home, just put my kid to bed, hanging out, and all of a sudden I start getting all these DMs, like these death threats on Discord. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? I have no idea what's going on. Well, it turns out that the kill stream had gotten taken down, and they assumed it was because they played my old video, or they assumed that I had flagged the video down because they were playing it. I didn't know about it, you know? And so I went on there to defend myself. And then, yeah, like ultimately, you know, because what I was being accused of, this is where things get murky. And this is why the devil really is in the details. And people didn't wait for the details. They didn't want the details. They just saw blood in the water. And arguably, there was a lot of blood. It was pretty bloody. There's no denying it. But what happened was I went in there and they were accusing me of flagging down these other 2 creators. And I never did. I just never did. But I did flag other people, even though they never went down. And that becomes, again, the conflation, right? You've got this, I didn't do this one thing I was accused of, but I did this other thing that's in the same ballpark. Therefore, it doesn't matter what I did or didn't do. I did everything. And people came out of the woodworks, man. Like, I just out of the freaking woodworks. I mean, I've never heard of some people, most of these people. People were making videos about me left and right. They're digging into every aspect of my life. They found my old Reddit account where like I had talked about like my stepdad cheating on my mom. You know, like they tried finding, there was a Discord group with like 3,000 people in it that were trying to dig in to my family history. They were trying to find my grandparents. They were trying to find more photos of my girlfriend, more photos of my kid. They had doxed me, my phone number, my girlfriend's phone number. I mean, like all sorts of shit. Sorry, pardon my language. I don't know if I can swear, but
we try to keep it family friendly.
Sure. I'll keep it. Yeah. Sorry, that one slipped through.
No. Yeah, but I did not prep you for that though. So you know.
Yeah.
Feelings.
But anyway, but the whole point though is that they came at me in ways that was wholly unbelievable, and just kind of like dizzying, to be fair. Like one guy reached out to, and I don't know if he reached out to this old college acquaintance of mine, or if that guy was following me, but I didn't know he was following me and then decided to reach out. I don't know. I don't know how it worked out. But like this one guy, his name is Mike. I had caught wind that this YouTuber had interviewed somebody from my past. And I could only assume it was maybe like one of 5 people. Legitimately, you know? And I reached out to everybody, including this guy, Mike. And I asked, did you talk to anyone about me? And everyone said no. Mike didn't say no, but he deflected and changed the subject. And I didn't think about it in the moment because like I met this guy when I first started film school. We were really good friends for a couple of years. Like I don't honestly know what happened. Right? I honestly don't know why he would lie about me the way that he did, because he gave this interview and it was just like, he was just saying I was like in film school. I was lazy. I didn't do anything. All these complete lies, right? Like I'll give you an example. Like him and I were in a class together, and in this class there were 15 students. Each there were 3 groups, so 5 students per group. Each group had to produce 3 short films throughout the semester, so it's a grand total of 9 shorts. Guess how many shorts I wrote during that semester? I wrote 8 out of the 9. 8. I wrote my shorts. And most of the other people's shorts as well. And I would go on my days off of work when we weren't filming our short films. And guess what I would do? I would go down to where they're filming and I would hang out on their sets. And I would help them out if I could. It was complete fabrication and you know, a smearing of something I'm incredibly proud of because I loved my time in college. You know, I threw myself into this stuff in ways that I can't do today. And that just bugged me, right? Because he denied it at first and then he like lied about it and then whatever. And you know, at the end of the day, you know what he wanted? He just wanted to get more eyeballs on his Twitch stream. That was it. He just wanted to get more people to watch him play like World of Warships or whatever it was.
Wow. So
you know.
So this is why I wanted to start this pod, because you start hearing things like what you're saying, like, well, people started going through my old social media. People started looking up phone numbers of like ex-girlfriends and finding people from college. And, you know, I think that's something a lot of people, they can't really connect on the surface. It should be like, well, that sounds at least a little unsettling. Why would someone do that for some random person on the internet? But explain what it's like to actually be someone who finds this out. You know that there's complete strangers trying to dig up your past and getting old contacts. Like, what goes through your mind when you hear that?
I mean, it's what else are you going to do, right? You have to sit there and just take it. There's no reprieve. There's none.
No.
What are you going to do? I mean, everyone is like looking into you and championing like your career being destroyed over just getting angry in a stupid way. Like, shouldn't have done it, obviously. But they just getting mad and you know, all that stuff, you know, and just making it like this you know, hellscape that you live your life in that you can't get away from. You know, it's like, also never mind all the people telling you just kill yourself. You've ruined your career. Just kill yourself. You're valueless. You have nothing to live for anymore. Your family should be embarrassed to know you. They should fucking leave you. You should die. You know what I'm saying? That shit came in all the time. I had one guy. Sorry. I didn't mean to swear again. But like, there's this one guy who was like a good buddy of Ralph at the Kill Stream. And this guy, his name was Wild Goose. And he impersonated a video game journalist to file a false DMCA claim against one of my videos. I think in order for me to like counterclaim it with my information. It's the only thing I could assume, because he started making these comments on I covered a Kotaku article, and he started leaving these comments about like, well, wouldn't it be funny if you got DMCA'd or something like that? And then all of a sudden I got DMCA'd. And so I reached out to the journalist, and the journalist was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then later on, this Wild Goose guy admitted to doing it. And I'm like, I never copyright claimed anybody. I idiotically reported them for harassment. I hit a button with a little flag on it. I tapped a little button. 2 clicks, destroyed everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this guy's out there faking, like faking copyright claims, and no one cares because at the end of the day, we got to remember about this. No one cared. No one really cared. It was blood in the water. It was a spectacular dumpster fire, and that is where the merits of it lied.
Mm-hmm.
No one gave a crap about what really went on because if you look at it 6 years later, people are doing way worse.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and there was also like it's always been kind of like a murky thing. Like I'll admit right now I have reported videos from my other channel with a couple people who I felt were harassing me. They were encouraging people to find me and bully me, and this was like 10 years ago. I didn't.
Yeah.
Your mind is not, unless you're actually living the situation, you do not realize just how scary sometimes it can be to know that there's strangers out there who actually seem to really want you dead. I think you got hit the most because you were like a libertarian, freedom of speech, and here you are supposedly censoring your critics, which I don't know if I saw it that way at the time.
I mean, there's a difference between like, it's almost like you know how there's a difference between murder and attempted murder?
Mm-hmm.
Neither are good, but there's varying degrees.
Right.
This is a situation similar to that. Like, I reported people, but no one was killed.
Mm-hmm.
So there's really no harm, no foul. Doesn't excuse it. But when you look at it through the lens of, well, no one was harmed. Okay, it's not so bad.
Right. At the end of the day, you probably got more. You were probably the one hurt most of all because, like you said, nobody lost their videos. They didn't lose their livelihood. I think the YouTube community just said, it's the principle of the matter. We have to make an example of this because we don't want, someone who's truly terrible to get the idea that this is okay. Maybe.
Yeah. But the thing is though, like a lot of people, there are a lot of people who they saw blood and that's what they wanted. That's all they cared about. They just wanted to find ways to inflict as much pain as humanly possible.
Well, let's talk about the inflicting the pain, because obviously the next question is like, after this whole thing has come out, it's been revealed, people start making videos about you. Now your channel, the interesting thing about these situations is that your channel always comes into focus from people who probably didn't know you existed. And so for a brief period of time, you probably get like a viewer boost, and it's probably tempting to think, oh, well, hey, I guess no publicity is bad publicity. But what happens to the channel after this starts to snowball?
Well, you do get the boost, but there's a dire consequence to that. And what I mean by that is it's the best way to describe it is like death by 1,000 cuts. Okay. What I mean by that is YouTube really only cares about one thing, and that's the watch time, right? Your average view duration. So before that night, I was sitting at around 4 minutes and 55 seconds, average watch time, which is pretty good. And then after that, when I started getting just attacked by tens of thousands of people coming in from larger channels, it started knocking it down because they would just hit dislike and then leave, hit dislike and leave, thousands upon thousands at times. And then from there, it just told YouTube was like, okay, well, 1 video is bad, 2 videos bad, 3 videos. Okay, now the whole channel's bad. And the channel gets deranked, and there's just no coming back from that.
So basically, this, as you're saying, this is not the kind of attention you want. And see, I just learned something like, I didn't think like, oh, so that's why some of these people do those campaigns. like say, oh, go over to their site and leave a dislike. So I'm kind of like, well, why would that hurt them its engagement for the video? But yeah, if they're leaving right away and they're not sticking around, then it does hurt your average view time.
Yeah, and that ultimately ends up hurting the channel. I was actually able to get the head of the creator liaison of YouTube, right? I got him in DMs one morning and I was like, hey man, what do you recommend I do? And I told him everything and I showed him everything. And his response was, yeah, just start a new channel.
Did you start a new channel?
No, I mean, like, look, the Mundane Matt or Matt Jarbo channel, I'm just kind of burning it into the ground. I don't really care. You know, I can stream, make a little bit of money on it. You know, go from there, right? Like, it's fine. No one should, you know, I'm not going to let anyone kill that channel other than me.
Okay. Well, I admire your persistence on that one. So now one of the things that gets brought up whenever someone is, particularly a YouTuber, is canceled is, all right, so what's the apology going to look like? And the YouTube apology has kind of become like this almost joke in the YouTube community where it's like, yeah, people expect it, but they don't really want you to apologize. They want to see just how bad you apologize. You did not do an apology until several months later. What was the thought process behind that?
Well, okay, it wasn't a couple months. It was about 5 weeks.
Okay, well,
5,
a little more than a month. So okay.
Yeah. It was So okay, so when you're in that whirlwind, you honestly don't know which way is up. You don't know which way to go. You don't know what to do. Everyone is giving you different advice, good, bad, or the other. Right? Some people say, don't apologize. Some people say, apologize right now. Some people say, just don't acknowledge it ever again. Just move on, you know, whatever, right? It like, because nothing is ever good enough. You're right. Like, it's, you know, doing an apology is not something that's easy to do, you know, like, because what do you say? Like, I effed up. I'm sorry. You know, because what it is people want to make sure that what they want is they want to see that you're hurt. They want to see that you've been taught a lesson, right? Like, even now, like, you know, on that stream, I think Keemstar had said something, you have like 10 years of irrelevance or something like that. And someone just the other day was all like, you got 4 years left, you know, like he remembered what Keemstar had said 6 years ago and like held on to that little nugget. In this, I literally got told this the other day. So it just, after a while, you just don't care. You just become apathetic to it. Like, who cares? You know, like, it's just, it sucks in the moment because you don't know what to do. And I went to Milwaukee. I went to MythCon. Probably shouldn't have gone, but I did it, I think, out of like necessity to show that like I wasn't afraid and I wasn't going anywhere. Although it cost me so much money to go out there, you know. And but I was talking with Derek Blackman, aka Some Black Guy, and we were talking about it. And he goes like, he's like, you should apologize. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's just, you know, I don't know. And he's like, think about it like this. He's like, don't apologize to, like, you know, you're like the people who hate you. Apologize to the people whose trust you lost. And I was like, okay, I get that. That makes sense. That stuck with me. You know what I mean? Like that stuck with me. I was like, okay, because I came back and I did, you know, I did an apology the next night when I got home. And I think that was a good thing to say. Because, you know, the idea there is that, yeah, it's rebuilding trust, acknowledging wrongdoing, and then trying to rebuild trust. But the problem, though, is it had been 5 weeks and the channel was already on the decline and people just, didn't, some people were cool with it. Some people, I think really what I just wanted was for people to leave me alone. And like, honestly, a lot had, like there wasn't a lot of like, much more you could get off of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, you probably said something true there. I think a lot of apologies, like in people's minds, like I just want people to leave me alone. It's like, it's just so overwhelming. Like you don't understand.
Yeah.
But I think Derek had good advice. And I know people criticize, and this is why YouTube apologies have kind of become a joke. People criticize like, oh, well, you should either just accept responsibility or you should do this. It's like, if you're going to do it, it's like, apologize to the people whose trust you lost. That's actually, I think, very good advice. Now, because you said the channel is already on the decline, I'm assuming like the channel analytics and stuff didn't really improve much even after the apology. In fact, I don't think anyone really commented on your apology, if I can recall.
I mean, I got more crap for writing a written apology on my website. But people were like, you wrote it on Tumblr. I'm like, well, my website was Tumblr.
Yeah.
Like, whatever, Like, should I have done it on Twitter? Like, where should I have done it? But honestly, YouTube was probably was the right call.
Yeah, and also people need to remember that Twitter back then, you couldn't put unlimited characters. You really were stuck at 140, and this whole idea of like creating threads wasn't really a thing back then. So like you really couldn't do an apology on Twitter.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. There's no right answer, to be fair, because everybody wants something different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I can sympathize. So you apologize and you continue to make videos, but the channel is dying. Now, I kind of went through, I didn't get canceled, but on my other channel, there was a point where the topics I was discussing were clearly not relevant anymore. And that channel started to die. And I was making pretty good money at it, and remember just having a flood of emotions. I don't know how much success you had with your channel. You don't have to disclose that, but I think at the very least, it was clear you enjoyed making videos and you enjoyed doing what you were doing. How are you feeling as the channel started going down as a result of this period? Did you have like a 5 stages of grief period or something? Like, what kind of goes through your mind?
Let's see here. It's kind of hard.
That's a hard one.
I mean, I was, you're kind of watching everything fall, like in slow motion. Like that's really about it. You're watching everything just kind of fall, and you have no control. And you're watching the numbers shrink day by day. One guy bought like 3,000 subscribers for the channel. He did. He bought 3,000 subscribers.
Oh.
Just so people would think that I was buying subscribers, and they would make videos saying that I was buying subscribers. It was some guy named Max Sand. He admitted to it later on. I think I have a screenshot. I cataloged a lot of these screenshots from back then.
Wow.
But yeah, it was crazy. Like people just made stuff up. They legitimately just invented stuff out of whole cloth, and people believed it because they wanted to. They want to believe the worst thing about you when you're canceled.
Well, I believe that, although that technically wasn't the question. You mentioned everything falling in slow motion. I was asking how does it feel to watch it falling in slow motion?
I mean, like feeling is it's kind of like hopelessness.
And maybe a little sadness as well.
I mean, like, well, you kind of are a little numb at that point to really cry. You're kind of like you're you know you're in, like in those moments you are effectively in a fight or flight type scenario. You know, that's more or less where you are. And you're there for a long period of time. You know?
Yeah.
It's just you're there for a long period of time. Because you have, again, no control. You don't know when it's going to stop. You don't know when it's going to subside. Nothing you do makes it any better. It's so, like, what are you supposed to do? Just walk away, go away, disappear? You know, that doesn't seem feasible when this is like your income, when this is like your livelihood.
Yeah. Well, of course, in this situation, you're probably also, in a sense, losing your livelihood too, and that's got to be a scary feeling.
Yeah, I have a mortgage. I had a daughter that I was looking, you know. Yeah.
It's like, in a sense, getting fired from a job, and I mean, I think anyone can relate to when you lose a job unexpectedly. Like, well, I mean, nobody expects to get fired. No, sometimes you can predict that something might be off, but you can't really ever truly prepare for it. And so yeah, like that's probably where a sense of hopelessness comes in. but
Exactly.
But then there's like the flip coin, because at this point, you are in some sense a public figure. And so it's like, well, first of all, I guess at what point did you decide maybe I should get like a real job like this? This isn't worth holding on to anymore. I should find a real job. And then on the other hand, how do you approach interviews, because you're on the internet and this stuff will come up if they
Well,
look up
I went and I started driving for Uber Eats. I had done it a year earlier for a little bit, and I was like, well, I can try it, and I can make money, and it still allows me a flexible schedule, you know, and you know, that's why I did it. I was still watching my daughter in the daytime. You know, she was only like 10 months old, so you know, I couldn't work in the daytime. And so I chose a flexible gig that I could do at night, that I could still bring in money, and I could still bring in money from YouTube. The YouTube money had severely decreased, but it wasn't gone. You know?
Yeah, and again, you don't have to tell us what you were making. Like, I don't think that's anyone's business, but you were getting something, and so it's like, okay, well, I guess I'll do this little gig work thing, which you know, as someone who made videos about Uber and stuff on my other channel, I can tell you, gig work was far more profitable back then than it is now.
I mean, yeah, it really was. It really was, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like I remember the first Uber ride, and like they would pay you up $10 for the first 5 miles, and then like a $2 a mile after that. Like, it was like really, really nice. There's a reason a lot of people started quitting their real jobs, and that ended up being a oops for a lot of people. So
yeah, I mean, that's true. Like, I mean, when I first started doing it, you know, like, oh man, I could go out for like 3 hours and make $100.
yeah,
Like, that ain't bad, you know.
Yeah.
Do that 5 nights a week, 4 times, you know, 4 weeks a month. Not too shabby. But then it started getting kind of bad gas wise and everything else.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, well, we don't want to get too off topic, because I could talk about how Uber screwed people in the long run a lot. But so all this is going on. You're making the side job. When do you decide? Because I remember when you made the video saying Mundane Matt is dead. When do you decide I'm going to retire the Mundane Matt name, and why did you do that?
I honestly, I don't remember. I don't remember if it was before or after like the 1 year anniversary, because I did a live stream on the 1 year anniversary because a lot of people were gonna do like a Boulder stream, you know, kind of like whatever with it. And I had been asked to come on a couple of shows to kind of talk about it a year later. And I was like, man, like F that. I don't want to do that. So I thought it'd be funny to just do my own version of it. So I did a live stream called 1 Year Boulder. And people were like, what the? Is he making fun of what happened to him? Like, is he memeing on himself? And I'm like, yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Like,
if
you have
laugh
to.
at yourself, what can you do?
Exactly. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I said something dumb, I would like make a joke about it. Like, I mean, like that's how I always dealt with things. Like when I had like one of the trolls and the guy had an issue with one of my points, and I remember commenting like, boy, that entrepreneur guy sounds like a real jerk. I'd hate to be him. And he was just so pissed that I apparently wasn't taking him seriously, which in all fairness, I wasn't. So, but yeah, I mean, look, sometimes you just have to laugh at the bad things in life, because if you don't, you grow up with severe insecurities, and before you know it, you're running for president and melting down on a debate stage one night. Like, you got to be able to laugh at yourself.
Oh yeah, 100%. If you don't like, and that's, I guess you could argue like a lesson I learned pretty effectively that night, you know, not to take it too seriously. Because a lot of people out there are, they're jerks, you know, and they just want to be jerks. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm. So, and now, we got an LOL. I don't know if that was for you or for me, but you know, glad you're finding this humorous, 7gen171. So I guess I did forget to ask this one question. Then I only have like, I think one more question after this. You know, when you were asked to share your flagging history, how were you feeling when you realized that was something you could do? Like, you could show your flag history to people. Like, what was going through your mind? And you can curse for this one if you want.
It was like, you ever been caught with like your hand in the cookie jar? You know, that feeling of like that initial shock of, hey, what are you doing? Right. It was like that. And then I don't remember what happened next. I'm not even, apparently I went quiet for like 18 minutes is what I was told. And I didn't even know that happened.
I don't know if it was that long, but it was definitely some silence.
Yeah. And I don't remember what happened. It wasn't until about like a week or so later, I was in a call with a friend and he goes like, what was happening during that time? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what was happening during the time when you were silent? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And like, you went silent for a long time. I'm like, I have no recollection of that.
Yeah.
It was like a circuit breaker went off. I just don't have any memory. Like, even now, 6 years later, I don't know what happened.
Probably just shut down, like when there was a realization. Yeah,
it just
shoot, I'm caught.
It just popped it.
Yeah. So yeah, well, so for everyone who was wondering what was going through his mind, apparently nothing, because you know, that just happens sometimes. So okay, you got caught, your channel goes down, you decide to rebrand just to Matt Jarbo. You find a new mini career in singing Zack Snyder's praises. That's a joke, by the way.
Well, I mean, here's the thing: is I had the $3 Theater, account, and then they left that alone.
Yeah,
people didn't attack that, so that was interesting.
Did they? Maybe they didn't realize it was you or something like that.
No. They knew that it was me. They absolutely knew that it was me. They just, I saw a $3 Theater. I mean, I stream over there. Well, I was doing Hollywood After Dark, the podcast, for a while, but movie news just doesn't interest me as much anymore. Movies still do. I've got like 32,000 subs on that account. It's not that it's dead. It's just like, again, like, you know, when you do streaming for so long, that's like kind of the audience you build up. So I'm trying to like figure out ways to do whatever with it. But I mean, like that's the thing is like people hated me and they killed that channel, but they left the other one alone.
Yeah, because I actually do remember you posting more on that channel than the Mundane Matt channel.
Well, after it happened, absolutely. But before then, I was doing like 3 videos a day on each. And that's just tiring. When you've got a newborn, when you got an infant, a toddler, you know what I mean? Like that's tiring. That's really tiring.
And just the getting older thing in general. I mean, the whole burnout thing. That's why when I started these podcasts, people are kind of going like, why are you doing a podcast?
Yeah.
You know how many podcasts are out there? What are you going to add to the conversation? I'm like, I don't know, but it's fun. It doesn't require nearly as much work. In this cases like this, I get to talk to interesting people. So, I mean, I'm kind of doing it more for myself than anything.
Yeah, you kind of have to. You know what I mean? And that becomes difficult, especially when you're doing like, you know, like YouTube or whatever, because you want to like, you know, you want to appease people. You know what I'm saying? Like you want to, you know, make people want to come back and listen to you. So you've got to be interesting. And it sucks because, you know, you always have to be on. Like you always have to be on. You have to be entertaining, energetic, engaging, interesting, funny, charismatic. All of these things you have to do for however long you're streaming for. Because if you just sit there and you're like, hey, what's going on, everyone? Yeah, what a day.
Yep. Speaking of my old channel, hey, Crystal, I have not seen you in a while. 7 years. Wow. Thank you. I'm doing well. And I guess I should ask, Matt, this should be like really kind of close to the final question, although it's kind of going to be like a long one. Now that everything's happened, it's obviously been many years. Reflecting, how do you feel you are today? Are you in a better place? Are you happy? And looking back at the situation, how do you feel about it overall?
I mean, it sucks. You know, like there's no denying it. It sucks. Where I am now is infinitely better though. I'm not beholden to anyone. I don't have to appease an audience of people that I disagree with politically. I don't have to sit there and find ways to be angry. You know, I don't have to find things that make me angry. I don't have to try to make other people angry to talk about this stuff. And
and you know, I'll sympathize with that because, as Crystal might tell you, my old videos, you definitely got a lot more bees with vinegar, if you will. And so people always say like, well, you complain too much. And it's like, well, that's what gets the views, unfortunately. And that's exhausting.
Yeah, it is exhausting. It's tiring. I've done it for a long time. So, you know, it is just what it is. I am much better now. Like, would I love to be making more money at this? Yeah, sure. Cause it'd be nice to be able to pay for nicer things, like take my kids, on, other, like, we're doing like a Hawaiian cruise next year, which is going to be fun. But it's like, things like this stuff, more intermittently would be nice. And yeah, but at the same, but I don't, you know what? I never turned to drugs. I never turned to alcohol. I haven't had a beer since 2019.
That's good. I've never had alcohol in my life.
Well, I mean, I can't say you're missing out, but
yeah, well, the big joke is that I used to be a bartender at Disney's California Adventure. So that was like, oh, how does that work? And it's like, usually the people who are going there, they aren't going there for taste.
Yeah.
They're going there to get buzzed.
Oh, basically, yeah. I mean, I get that entirely. I think, I didn't do any self-medication necessarily. I was depressed for a long time. Trying to figure it all out. And then things got kind of better as time went on. In 2019, we had our second daughter. And then, then I was a stay-at-home dad for 2 kids. And then 2020 happened with the pandemic.
Yeah.
And Uber Eats was like fishing with dynamite, man. It wasn't even fair. But then also I ended up getting a job working with the U.S. Census Bureau. And I did that for a little while. And that was great. That was the best job I've ever had. And in a couple more, 6 more years, when we do it again, I'm going to do it again, you know? And so, and then now both my kids are in elementary school. So my youngest just started kindergarten yesterday, and my eldest is in first grade. So now both my kids are there. And today was weird because I took him to school, came home, and I just kind of was like, okay. Like there's silence in the house. I've been a stay-at-home dad since they were born. I've been like, in their life every day outside of maybe one or two here or there. Pretty much like the entire time. So it's like that's the difference. But so you ask, am I happy? I'm happier. Absolutely. I'm more content. Now I get the opportunity to kind of reclaim some of my time and work on projects that are important to me while my kids are at school. And then still work the job that I have that I really like and that I'm really good at.
Final question. If you have advice out there for anyone who may be canceled, might be currently being canceled, or have been canceled, what is the positive lesson that you learned from being canceled, aside from don't get caught or don't do bad stuff?
My advice would be just take it one day at a time. And understand that you don't have, you can't control anything. You have no ability to do that. You can't control how people react. You can't control what they think. You can't control what they say. You have no control, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. So just surround yourself with people that are going to be there for your mental health care, right? For your self-care, for your health. And I thankfully did have that actually. So, I had some good people, with all that, and, I am happy about that.
Right. Well, I'm glad to hear, and thank you for coming on. Do you want to tell our audience where they can find you since you are still in the game?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm over at youtube.com/Matt Jarbo. I do a show over there called Boulder Talk Radio where I make a lot of jokes that are uncouth and aimed at adults.
Mm-hmm. So not anything like this podcast.
No, here I'm trying to be on my best behavior and not make jokes that would put you in a position of moral peril. So,
well, I don't know if you'd put me in a position of moral peril. I just my nieces and nephews do listen to me, so I just try to be aware of that. I want to be a good example. So I recommend the good movies and the good games. I do not admit, I don't admit to them publicly that I once liked NSYNC. Like I said, gotta set the good
example. I openly talk about how I went to the Spice Girls reunion tour in 2007. Their very first show at Staples Center. I think it was like December 7th, 2007, or maybe December 5th. I was one of those days. Oh, and yes. I went there and it was awesome.
Yeah, I was listening to the Spice Girls Greatest Hits CD. It actually was not. I mean, I grew up, didn't really listen to music. I just knew they were a thing at the time. It's like, oh, okay, I can kind of understand why they were big. Some of these songs are kind of catchy, and that Viva Forever song is actually unexpectedly moving. So
Oh yeah, Viva Forever was a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. So all right, folks. Well, thank you for joining us. This is the sub iCritic Live podcast, Life After Cancellation. I would really like to hear your feedback on it, as well as maybe other people who you think would make for a good guest on this show. So you can comment below if you are listening to this podcast on one of these sites that allows comments. And if this is your first time listening and you like what you hear, well, why don't we make it official? Why don't you subscribe? We're on Spotify, Apple, Deezer, all that jazz. And thank you once again to Matt for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you for listening, everyone. Bye.